everybody. Hey, Batman. Hey, Blissful. You guys might be the only ones in here tonight. I did invite Candace and Chris, but they may be busy. So I may go it alone tonight. But I want to welcome everybody to another edition of Stephen's Kingdom. Hey, Darren. Um, Tonight I'll be talking about in a little bit Hearts in Atlantis, Rose Red, and Dreamcatcher. But I wanted to talk about first what's coming up for the rest of the week. So tomorrow will be another Everybody Wants England, and I've been kind of dancing around, you know, what I will be covering. Batman, I'm gonna try. Hey, Dirk, I'm gonna be trying to, watch Chud 2. To see that blink and you'll miss performance from Robert England. Um, and I'm going to have to push V the Final Battle ahead to another week. But I'm going to try to also cover Dance Macabre from 1992, Night Terrors from 1993, and either a Perry Mason mystery, The Case of the Lethal Lifestyle from 1994, or if I'm unable to find that, to watch New Nightmare from 1994. So we got that coming up tomorrow night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If anybody wants to join me to talk about those Robert England films, let me know and I'll be sure to get the link to you. Hey, Chris. Also, Wednesday, me and TJ should return for another segment talking about creep show episodes or creep show segments. Thursday will be another a triple threat review show on Seductive Poison and Resurgence because I'm lazy that way. And I will be covering Bloody Birthday. And I can't show you this slip cover because that'll get me in trouble. But Bloody Moon and Brian De Palma's Blowout. And Friday will be a new edition of Friday Foolish. And me and Candace will be back. We're primarily going to be talking about vinyl. It doesn't have to be horror vinyl, but if you've got some horror vinyl you want to come on and show us, or even some regular vinyl you want to come on with me and Candace on the stream and show off. Or if you're not a collector of vinyl, let's say you got some cool action figures. They don't necessarily have to be horror action figures. You can show those off. And also, Saturday and Sunday, and Sunday's also going to have a movie munchies, but we're going to have a couple more watch-alongs coming up this weekend. So we will be having, let's see, we will be having, what did I say I was going to do? Because I've got these out of order here. So I'm going to be doing Chud on Saturday, April 14th, or not Saturday, April 14th. I'm way behind here. Saturday, April 20th will be Chud, followed on Sunday, April 21st with E.T., the fun little alien movie. The movie Munchies that I had planned for this past Sunday is now being pushed to this Sunday. I also wanted to remind everybody that's in here that I will be alternating Sundays on the movie Munchies. So I'll take a week off and then I'll do one. I'll take a week off and do one again. So this week's movie Munchies will be a recipe that I pulled from the Death for Dinner book that Candace and Chris got for me. Cool little book. And I will be making chili Necronomicon corn. So and look forward to all of that coming up the remainder of the week. And then I'm going to set this stuff back over there. Let's see. Y'all been burning up the chat in here, so I don't want to miss anything. Chris, you say Rose Red is a TV film, right? That is correct. I believe somebody also beat me to that while I was blabbing. Yeah, Dirk did. And Blissful. Chris says, Love Bloody Birthday and Blowout is almost a masterpiece. I agree. I completely agree, Chris. Batman, you say, if you guys do a Freddy's Nightmares, would you and TJ be willing to do the Chucky series? Hold on, Batman, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Well, I'll talk it over with TJ, but I would probably be game to do that. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea if he wants to do that. Blissful says, Chris, you should join Dana and talk about them. Yeah, I'd love to have Chris on to help me out with that. He hasn't been on the stream with me for a little bit. Dirk, you say, I have a few old vinyls, but at my mom's house. I gotcha. Blissful says, Dirk, I just started collecting them again. I kind of heard Dirk say things like that he just can't start that stuff. Your wife will get after you, Dirk. Tasha seems nice. I agree with Blissful. Dirk's movie collection is epic, and all the little, I meant to ask you, Dirk, when we were doing Eurocult, was your Art the Clown? Was he hidden somewhere? Because I didn't remember seeing him last time. Chris, you haven't seen Bloody Moon yet? Oh man, you need to see that one. You say you might watch it tonight? Hey, Mayor. Mayor says, I actually spend more money on vinyl than I do movies lately. That's interesting. Darren says, no way I can afford to collect anything else. Oh man, Chris, you're still younger than me. You say it's your birthday tomorrow as well. 45-year-old slasher dude. I'm going to be 48 on my birthday, so I got about 3 more years on you, Chris. But happy birthday early, because you never know, I might forget, and I don't want to do that. Yeah, we got some people wishing Chris a happy early birthday. Cool. Well, don't let me forget to put that link up in here, Chris, for you, because sometimes I've neglected to do that, and people have to remind me. Well, she seems pretty sweet to me. Hey, Blair. Oh, okay. Dirk, you say he's retired. I now have the no face killer from Blood and Black Lace hanging out. I did notice that. So, where do you put them, Dirk, when they're retired? Chris says, just pay my taxes and rent. LOL. No buying for right now. Darren says, 45 is no age, Chris. Oh, I totally agree, Chris, you say the Psycho 4K is great, by the way. Good 4K transfer. Blair, you say, Dana, what's your favorite horror movie remake and least favorite? Well, if I had to go with favorite horror movie remakes, it would be the stuff that is older, like the remakes were of something a lot older. Like, one of the best remakes, in my opinion, because it was, based on a movie from the 1950s, is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Um, and so that would be one, but it's again, Blair, you give me the hard one. Sometimes it's hard for me to just pick one because I also like Cronenberg's remake of The Fly. I love what Savini did with Night of the Living Dead. So there's actually several of those older remakes that I like. Um, Least favorite, now Dirk will get me because he says that the 2013 Evil Dead is not a remake. But if I can count it as a remake, I would say that would be my least favorite, Blair. Oh, The Thing. Yeah, The Thing, Chris, I agree with that one too. Darky say it's just a mannequin, swap the clothes out. Mayor, you say, I've got a handful of vinyl soundtracks, but most of my records are just different bands. Nothing wrong with that, though, Mayor. Darren, you say, I'm still saving for my TV. I do have Killer Nun coming this week. Steve would be proud. He most certainly would, Darren. Chris, you said The Thing and Friday 13th, my fave remakes. Blair says The Thing. Dirk says The Devils, Darren. Check it out. Oh yeah, that would be right up there with worst remakes for me too, Chris. You said worst remake probably Nightmare on Elm Street, even though I don't think that film is that bad. Blissful says Mayor same, and this summer I'll find a lot of good stuff in Woodstock at lawn and estate sales. Least favorite is Child's Play. Child's Play is terrible, in my opinion. Um, Red Hammer, some people do say that the 2013 Evil Dead was fantastic. Dark likes it really, really well. I know that. Batman, you said, for me, it's either The Thing or Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel. Mary said, I still need to get The Devil's Dirk. Something else always comes up, so I never get around to getting it. And Chris, you say, only vinyl I have is a new one of Ozzy's Diary of a Madman, but that's a good one to have. Interesting. Darren says Hills Have Eyes is his favorite remake. Chris says Hills Have Eyes is damn good, Darren. Worse is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Oh yeah, that's a bad, bad, bad one, Dirk. He says Psycho, worst remake, should have never been attempted. Rat Hammer, you say, I watched the Hong Kong 1989 comedy classic The Inspector Wears Skirts today. Steve would be proud if he knew it was watched today. He probably would, Rat Hammer. Um, Last House on the Left remake is not bad, Chris, but in my opinion, they copped out at the end. But just my opinion, though. Mayor, you love the Evil Dead remake, and I say to each their own on that. Blissful says, Dark, I just put that remake in the back of my mind. The Omen remake is okay. I think me and Steve might go see the first Omen, Chris. You said the first Omen has been getting great reviews too. I'm happy for that. Um, Mayor, you say, I actually like the remake of The Hills Have Eyes way more than the original. I don't think you're the only one that said that, Mayor. Um, Darren says, didn't you like Vince Vaughn, Dirk? Oh, Dirk gives this one high praise. He says, highly recommend First Omen, 8 out of 10. Hey, TJ. TJ says, poking the bear, Mayor, LOL. All right, so y'all keep on going in the chat. I love this lively chat. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with the movies. It'll probably go pretty fast tonight because I don't have anybody else on here with me, but that's okay. So the first one is Hearts in Atlantis. Now, hands up, how many people have actually seen this one? Starring Anthony Hopkins. I mean, I must be quite honest that it's been a while since I saw this one. But this one is one of those, you know, not historical, but it goes back to 1960, small town in Connecticut, typical of a lot of Stephen King stuff. Um, there is a man, Anthony Hopkins plays Ted Brodigan, and he has special powers, and he's always talking about the low men, and the low men are always after him. And I loved the way this book was designed with the little clues that you could figure out where the low men had been or when they were going to come back and things like that. And as I said, an individual, whether it's a child or an adult, having some kind of power that somebody wants to take advantage of is very prevalent in a lot of Stephen King stories, especially his earlier stuff. But this one is a later book and a later film. And it's described as very atmospheric, which I totally agree with that. They kind of encapsulate that 1960s feel and a small town. And Stephen King is masterful at creating this small town atmosphere in a lot of his books. And sometimes it's replicated very well in the film adaptations, and sometimes it's not. In this case, it's done really, really well. And so we also have the character of the young Bobby, played by Anton Yelchin, who strikes up a friendship with Ted Brodigan and tries to help protect Ted from these low men that want to do him harm. This is directed by Scott Hicks, who also did Shine. And of course, like I said, it's based on the book by Stephen King. This is not rated R. It is PG-13, but it does have, a little bit of violence and some thematic elements. And it's a little longer than some Stephen King films at 101 minutes, but to me, if the story is good, and in this case, the story is good and it is told very well in this adaptation, then you don't even notice the longer films. And I definitely want to sit back down and really, really focus on this one. Because the last time I watched it, I really admired how it was designed and how they took Stephen King's work and really made it come alive. Because that's something Stephen King is fantastic at, is creating these rich characters, a rich atmosphere. He creates characters that we all know and love, and some we might not love so well, when he creates the baddie characters, the bullies, and things like that. Hey, Uncle Bill, you don't by any chance want to come on live on here with me and talk about Hearts in Atlantis, Rose Red, and Dreamcatcher, do you? I'd love to have somebody on here with me. We got a lot of people in the chat, and this is feeling like the old days, and I'm absolutely loving it. I have to say that right off. Um, Paul Bill. I'm just looking through the chat and make sure I don't. Darren did mention that he hated that Suspiria remake. He needs to give it a rewatch. I didn't care for the Suspiria remake either, Darren. Good point, Dirk. You say hills have eyes. I prefer the OG because of the Farrell family. They're more developed. The remake, they're just there. Right. Yeah, I felt like that too. Which film have you not heard about, Chris? Are you talking about the Hearts in Atlantis movie? Yeah, I don't think that this movie was widely, widely advertised, that I honestly can remember. Um, let's see. Right, Henry, you say it's comical how they tried to spin Jigsaw into the protagonist in Saw 10. The guy is irredeemable based on the other films, just a sick film and not in a good way. Uncle Bill, you say I haven't seen Hearts, but I can do the other two in a bit. Okay, sure. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Batman. Chris says, slash that like, damn it. TJ, you say Tilda Swinton was the best part of Suspiria. Chris, you say, yeah, Hearts you haven't ever heard of. Like I said, I don't think that this movie got a lot of attention when it came out. Chris, you say, fave King film is Cujo. That film just hits differently. And Shining. Oh, yeah. Wasn't Uncle Bill going to bring back the tours of Italy, Nairn? I thought he was. Yeah, I thought at first you wanted to kill the other two, Uncle Bill. All right, awesome. Chris, you say that's a nice snapper case of this. Yeah, I talk about I don't like the snapper cases, but it's mainly just because they feel a little flimsy to me. And I'm always afraid that this part here is going to break. Yeah, that's right, Mayor. Papa Bill wants to kill those two. Larry say, Dana, what's your favorite part of the Into the Pit documentary? I don't know. I'll have to think on that, Blair, because I like so many parts of that. I mean, I thought it was, when I'll just say this, when the director just kind of let the guys go and let them run with it. I think those were the best parts of it, actually. Batman, you said my sister was dog sitting and all I wanted to call him was Cujo. Uncle Bill said, nope, there's just too much shit going on here right now. LOL. I wish I was drinking. Chris says that Uncle Bill and CK need to review First Omen. Yeah, that would be good. Maybe they could do a on the road or something. Red Hammer, interesting question. People can laugh at me if they want to, but I do believe in aliens. I do believe in other life on other planets. Um, and I guess if I believe in aliens, I'd have to believe in UFOs because they got to travel somehow, right? Larry said, my favorite was when they were grilling in the park. I kept thinking that grill can't be clean. Oh my goodness. Hey, Wes. Wes says, I'd rather drink warm shit, Chrissy. Oh, Chris, you want to know my fave slasher? Well, I got a lot of fave slashers. Y'all are asking me the really hard questions, but that's good. Keeps me sharp. But I probably have to go back to, something like Halloween or Black Christmas. Used to, Halloween was the go to one. But then I discovered Black Christmas. And so Black Christmas and Halloween, because they're so similar in the way that they are executed, that I like them really, really well, both almost equally. You say Red Hammer, she did marry Steve. Oh man. TJ, you say, could humans on Earth be the only mistake? LOL. Dirk says, damn, CK, that's hardcore. I take it all in stride. Darren says, Red Hammer, there's too much evidence not to believe. Mayor says, Papa Bill, what directors do you still need to do on the tour of Italy? Chris, you said Black Christmas is great. Well, it says, I'll take your word for it, Dirk, that it's good. I just never want to see it personally. No, I'm not going to say that Terror on Tour is my favorite slasher, although, CK and Uncle Bill would have you believe otherwise, probably. TJ wants to know, what's your favorite crappy slasher? Well, how do you define crappy? I would, you know, other people would define Terror on Tour as a crappy slasher or a non slasher, but probably Terror on Tour. I mean, But again, you ask me on a different day, I might mention another movie. Oh my gosh, I agree with you, Chris, that the house on Sorority Row doesn't get enough love either. Yeah, it doesn't get talked about hardly at all. Red Hammer, I would recommend you watch it. Now, you're not going to find a good copy of it. I ain't even going to lie about that. The best copy I ever saw was wherever Steve downloaded a copy that we watched one time. It's a killer title, though. And Batman, you haven't watched it either. Y'all can get on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube But again, it's not going to be a very good copy. Oh, yes, Chris. Body Count needs a proper release too. Uncle Bill, you say Umberto Lindsay is one for sure. I've got several I had on a list. I would be on there for Lindsay. What I think is crappy? Oh, well, you know, Late Slumber Party is crappy, but I have fun with it. So I guess if you mean in that context, then I would have to say something like Last Slumber Party. Oh, okay. You you say, Dana, I just watched 4K of Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker review to come. Dirk says, what has been seen cannot be unseen. Terror on tour. Ah, Darren's got some suggestions. Aldo Lato, Pupi Avati, Massimo Dallamano. Yep. I mean, Susan Terrell is what makes that movie ultra disturbing. I wish, Radhammer, I wish somebody would be able to pick it up and do something with it. Because I definitely would buy it. Dirk, I agree. Butcher Baker is fun as hell. TJ, he said it's always going to be on YouTube data. Nobody is claiming that. Oh, cool, Mayor. You say you got to pin the girl's severed head in the toilet from House on Sorority Row. Oh, yeah. Hitcher in the Dark. Yeah. Right, I don't think I have seen that one. You asked if I'd seen the 1985 slasher, The Dark Power. You said that's a terrible slasher, but still somehow fun. Later Fulci films, yeah, that would be interesting. I've never been to the Stanley Hotel personally, Blair, but I always wanted to. Don't think I'll ever get Steve to go though. Babin, you say, how about a GoFundMe for Terror on Tour? All right, so I'm going to put the link in here for poor old Uncle Bill before I forget, for when he wants to come on here with me, and then I'm going to give a rating for Hearts in Atlantis. Oh wow, Dirk, you hated grave robbers? Darren says the Dark Power is unwatchable. Yeah, I guess it isn't for everybody. It's been a while, Chris, since I've seen Open House, but I remember enjoying it. But let's see what the rating I'm going to give for Hearts in Atlantis. I'm going to have to give this one a 5 deadites out of 5, because this one, to me, this is almost on classic level. Very, very good film. And if I remember correctly, pretty faithful to Stephen King's original material as well. So, anyway, that's Hearts in Atlantis. Go out and try to find a copy to watch for free, preferably, if you can. Um, but Uncle Bill, if you're still in here, I put the link in there for you. So Hopefully he's still in here. Hopefully he hasn't went away. Now that's not only for Uncle Bill. If there's somebody else that wants to come on, or several somebodies that wants to come on and talk about these last two, or even talk about Hearts in Atlantis if you've seen it. I just wasn't sure if anybody had really seen it. Yeah, that's right. He was just a young child when Hearts in Atlantis came out. But yeah, you're exactly right. It was sad. This one, Hearts in Atlantis, came out in 2001. Hey, Kathy. Mary said, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a new slasher movie coming on Shudder. The killer reminds me of Psychhead Jason. Chris, you say it's been years since you've seen Dreamcatcher. I have the Snapper case DVD of that. Me too. Me too. Oh, yeah. I think I did see that advertised on Shudder. Baghead. I actually think Steve was mentioning something about it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about Rose Red. And Uncle Bill, when you get ready to jump on here, like I said, I put the link in the chat. If you need me to put it back in there, I'll be glad to do that too. But Rose Red, I don't know. Rose Red and Kingdom Hospital and all those different things, even though some of them were written by Stephen King, I think that this was at least Stephen King's written material that was written directly for television. It started to take a turning point somewhere around this time. And perhaps I need to go back and rewatch Rose Red. But really, I remember not much caring for this. I did not seem, or I didn't feel like I was engaged like miniseries of days past or years past. For instance, Storm of the Century, which was just a little bit before this, was great, you know. But this one, I just felt like it was too slow for one thing, didn't hold my interest. And used to, with the Stephen King miniseries, I would be totally engrossed in watching them. And I don't remember being that way with Rose Red. So, a little plot synopsis for Rose Red. Basically, a college professor and a team of psychics investigate mysterious deaths and disappearances at an old abandoned mansion. Now, I, I might like it better if I went back and kind of refreshed myself on it. Um, Start with Atlantis. Well, I already talked about Hearts in Atlantis, Uncle Bill. I just finished that one. I gave a rating for it and everything. Um, Chris, you say Horror on the 13th Floor. I've heard is a good one. And Chris, you say it's not a slasher though; it's something else like Talk to Me. That's interesting. I love Talk to Me. Thought it was really good. Rat, you say I requested that Rambo Raff react to the dark power, and I can tell he was in pain by the time Lash LaRue got into a whipping duel with the zombie Native American. Um, Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says, please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. Chris says, kick that like in the nuts and say, oh, hell yeah. Aw, thanks, Darren. You say it's good to see all the old faces. It is. It's great for me too. And back in the chat and enjoying it. I know it's been a bad week or so, Dana, but let's get back to all having fun and talking horror again. I say amen to that, Darren. I am ready to get back in the saddle again, as far as just going back to what I wanted from this channel when I started, was just to have fun with it. It wasn't to make money. It wasn't to get, it wasn't necessarily to get 1,000 or more subscribers. It was just to get on here and have fun with friends. And I see myself getting back to that. And it just makes me so happy. But thank you, Darren. Thank you for saying that. Chris, you say, talk to me as a fun one. It's different. Exactly. I think that's what I liked most about it, was the fact that it was different. Chris, you say, sorry, I can't talk about horror and slashers all day. Well, really, neither can I, Chris. Batman, you say, I'm shocked that he's not ecstatic about The Last Ronin. But, not a whole lot, like I said, that I can say about Rose Red. And, it, I mean, it had potential. It just didn't seem to follow through. And perhaps that was not a flaw in Stephen King's writing. Maybe that's just how it transferred or translated to the television screen, as a mini series. Rad Henry, you say you'll need to get Steve on here sometime to give his honest opinion of the Japanese cult classic Zombie Ass. Yeah, I mean, that would be a very entertaining stream, but you guys and gals are gonna have to help me out here, because I can hardly get Steve on here with me anymore. Um, Not to go into deep detail or anything, but perhaps I can get Steve back on here with me to help me redo. That's all I'm going to say. Redo some of the watch alongs um, that many of you may notice have been removed from the channel for reasons that I won't go into. If anybody wants to message me in private and ask me about it, um, like, gee, Dana, why'd you remove all those? But never fear. I'm going to be doing all new watch alongs for any watch alongs you may notice that are missing from the channel. And I'm going to get some new blood on here um, to help me out with these watch alongs. So if you didn't get to be in on the watch along first time around, never fear. There's another chance to do that. I know Batman loves Zombie Ass. Blissful, you say, I liked how Rose Red gave a nod to the Winchester Mansion. It certainly did. Oh my gosh, Rad Hammer, I've already made him watch it like 3 or 4 times. I think we did 2 or 3 different commentaries for it, and we did, I think on his channel or the Dead Pit channel one, we did like a live watch along for it, and he doesn't want to watch that movie again. Oh, yeah, Darren, I would love it, but you guys, again, y'all are going to have to help me out here and like encourage him to do it. Like, keep sending him messages on Facebook saying, hey, do some commentaries with Dana, do some watch alongs with Dana. Maybe he'll do it. It would be cool. I would really, really like it. Mayor says, unless it's about dry cereal or grapes, Steve ain't going to do anything. Dirk, you say I saw the devil. It's a great one. All right, Uncle Bill, where did you go, buddy? I'm gonna put this in the. I'm gonna put this back in the chat again, Uncle Bill. Ooh, laid to rest. Yeah, but you can tell that I'm not entirely thrilled with Rose Red, but I'm gonna be generous to it. I'll give it 3 deadites out of 5. Now, there's nothing that says that I can go back and rewatch it and have a totally different opinion. That might happen. Um, so hopefully Uncle Bill will come on at the near the end of this because I'm already to Dreamcatcher. I'm to the last one here. Now, a lot of there was a lot of snickering behind hands and stuff about Dreamcatcher. And here's why. Because these aliens or what creatures, whatever they are, bust out of people's butts, basically, when they're on the toilet. Or at least it does to one guy. And so there was joke after joke after joke made about this movie and the book too. It's I kind of felt bad for Stephen King when the book even came out, and then when the movie came out, it was even worse. Um, that I think he became the butt of a lot of people's jokes. Dirk, you say Dreamcatcher. I was disappointed. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you guys and gals. This is not my favorite. It has its moments, but it's definitely not my favorite. So let me give you a little bit of a plot synopsis for yes, ass weasels. That's exactly right, Batman. So Jonesy, Henry, Pete, and Beaver are bonded by friendship and the strange powers each acquired on a fateful day in their childhood. So again, we have adults dealing with powers that they obtained when they were children, I should say. But now a horrific entity is putting their friendship and powers to the test, and some of the four will die, and some will save the world from a menace unlike anything ever seen. Suspense, heroism, awesome effects, they're all unleashed in a Stephen King tale adapted by William Goldman and director and co-writer Lawrence Kasdan. A splendid cast headed by Morgan Freeman as a shoot-first alien hunter powers the eerie goings-on ranging from a monster flush fest to a massive animal migration to inner mindscapes and beyond. Dreamcatcher is a sci-fi and horror fan's dream come true. But that depends on who you ask, right? So not only do we have Morgan Freeman, we also have Thomas Jane, Jason Lee, Timothy Oliphant, Tom Sizemore, and Donnie Wahlberg. Um, I'm not saying that I hated it, and I didn't laugh at it other than hearing people mention ass weasels. Um, but I can understand how people can be disappointed because I don't know if it was necessarily lazy writing on Stephen King's part, but I think it was lazy filmmaking. I think that they could have made this so much better than what actually was produced, right? And I think they could have really, it seemed to miss the boat as far as the other Stephen King stories like it that dealt with kids and then it dealt with them as an adult or as adults. Um, and again, I really don't think it was Stephen King's writing. I'm just saying that it was lazy filmmaking. Somebody or several somebodies dropped the ball with this movie. And again, it could have been so much better. And I think it would have been better received had they tried a little harder with it instead of, it seemed like maybe at this time that Hollywood or producers and directors and all that were kind of taking Stephen King material for granted. They weren't taking it seriously at that point in time. And that's probably the big reason why Dreamcatcher suffers so much. Yes, Chris, I agree with you that lazy filmmaking happens a lot, unfortunately. Um, and Chris, you say the toilet scene is weird. All right, Uncle Bill, I'll be waiting for you. I'm not going to get off of here. Batman, you say I feel like Jonesy. I stored information in the brain like he does. And Durkee say I bought it on day one on DVD. I don't know if I got it on day one, but I got it pretty quickly after it was out. Mary says, well, that's what came out of my butt in the toilet earlier. Batman says, yep, Chris C. And why would Jason Lee pick up a match off the dirty, bloody floor to put in his mouth? I don't think they've done a film on Revival yet, Chris, but I think that would be a great idea because that was a really, really good book. I think just after Stephen King was hit by that car, um, I think his writing did take a downward turn, and even he said there was a time period where he didn't think he would even be able to return to writing. But then I think he was like the phoenix. I think he rose from the ashes. And so after that small little window of time where it seemed like the books were, From a Buick 8 is one that I point to a lot that seemed, and I hate to say this about any of Stephen King's work, but it seemed to be a confused and jumbled mess. It didn't seem like it knew what direction to go in, or what it wanted to be. Because at first I was thinking it was going to be like Christine or similar to Christine, but there were so many dang twists and turns in that I got lost along the way, honestly. Um, and I was kind of sad trying to read that because I could tell that Stephen King was going through something when he was writing that. I agree, TJ, too, that everyone has a slump, car accident or not. And they might have several slumps over the years. But once again, I can't give this one a 4 and I can't give it a 5. So I'm going to have to stick with 3 deadites out of 5 for Dreamcatcher. And it's another one that I need to revisit as well. Batman, you say you lose interest in the third act? Yeah, yeah, that would make sense. But we can just ramble on about random stuff if you guys want to while we're waiting for Uncle Bill to get in here. Um, I'm just taking a look at some things. Okay, so anyway, back to Batman says TikTok UV. Yeah, yeah, me and Blissful are in complete agreement with you, TJ. Durkee say King was probably too distracted. Dirk says King was probably too distracted hating Kubrick's masterpiece. Just kidding. Now, Dirk. Now, he didn't ever say he hated it, right? Or maybe he did. I don't know. I'm just yanking Dirk's chain there. Um, So anybody, I know it's kind of early. You're probably thinking, gee, Dana, it's Monday. Um, but anybody got any big plans for the weekend? Darren, you say, Dana, you got any new additions in Blu-rays or 4Ks? Batman, you saying he was driving Christine too? TJ said the accident was in 2000. He was in a 30-year slump, Dirk. Oh man. Um. Well, actually, hopefully Uncle Bill won't get mad at me. But let me run back uh to my to be watch stacks. Um. And I'll be right back, gang. I'll take myself out of the stream real quick. All right. Now, Darren, I apologize because I know you and Dirk both saw a couple of these while I was talking about my recently watched when we were on Eurocult. So feel free to ignore those when I'm talking about them. But of course, I got The Last Slumber Party on Blu ray, which, yeah, it's a crappy slasher film, but I have a lot of fun with it. But of course, Uncle Bill says that this movie makes Tarrant Killer look like Citizen Kane. So I got that one. Um, I got this nifty edition of Southern Comfort, and I had never seen Southern Comfort. And Steve was like, Dana, why didn't you watch that for free before you bought this like deluxe edition? I was like, well, you know me. But, I really think it looks good. Um, I believe this is the 4K of it. Yep, it is a 4K. And it's actually a really, really good film. Um, it's been compared to Deliverance, and I mean, some of the themes might be like Deliverance, but of course, there's no Ned Beatty squeal like a pig scene in Southern Comfort. There's nothing like that. It doesn't go into that realm, it but it's a great movie and it looks really really good on this 4K. Um, Steve probably wanted to scream at me so loud that you guys could hear him wherever you're at. But I had to have both versions of Thriller or Cruel Picture, right? So I had to get the Vinegar Syndrome 4K of it. And Steve, bless his heart, he got me this when we went to Horror Hound. This is the Tom Sullivan uh, bio, Invaluable. And if you don't know who Tom Sullivan was, he was the creator of the Necronomicon for the Evil Dead movie, and the special effects guy. But he had a very interesting life, and in some points a very tragic life. For instance, his wife was lost at sea, and I had no idea that that happened. But this is a very, very good documentary or bio uh, on Tom Sullivan. But I see Uncle Bill is backstage, so I'm going to go ahead and add him before he goes to sleep on me. Hey, Uncle Bill.
Look, Dana, throw that fucking Last Slumber Party away and stop trying to take up for that movie. You know that movie's awful.
You didn't throw your copy away.
No, I'm hoping it's worth some money. That's all that thing. You need to sell that immediately.
You sound like you got a cold, Uncle Bill. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm just tired of fucking seeing Last Slumber Party everywhere.
I'm going to show it every
Dana.
stream. I'm going to show it every stream.
God. Hear about that damn movie. So, what are we talking about, Dana? We talking about those movies. We talking about how awesome Last Slumber Party is, how killer
Well,
Tarantino Killer is.
Darren was wanting to know if I'd gotten any Blu-rays or 4Ks in. I was just, showing them off while I was waiting for your ass to get on here.
You don't need to show that to anybody. You need to throw it away. That's what needs to happen.
So, have you seen Hearts in Atlantis at all?
No, I never have.
So, you need to watch it though. I think you would like it. So, what about Rose Red? You've seen that one, right?
I have a really weird relationship with that movie because, like, when it came out, I guess that was like 2002, 2001, 2002, something like that. I probably watched that. Let me see if I've got the right one, the right time frame here. So it came out in 2002. Yeah, I probably watched that miniseries like 100 times. I don't know why, but I just at that point in time was like really obsessed with that miniseries
I've
and thought
seen
it
it
was.
maybe once or twice.
I thought it was great. I
Mm.
mean, I really, really loved it. I don't know why that is either. I thought it had some cool practical effects in it. I thought it had a pretty interesting story. Not a lot of people really seem to like that movie for some reason, but I really or miniseries, but I really, really did. Plus, it's got Marnie in it from
Yeah.
Halloween Town, and it's got like a really good cast. Julian Sands is in it. Marnie is in it. The guy who's in Roadhouse is in it. Who's in like a million different movies is like a character actor.
Oh, yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
think of his name, but he's like one of the main leads in
Nancy
the movie too.
Travis is in it. She's
Nancy Travis. Um, yeah, so I always really liked it. I'm not entirely sure what it was about. See, for somebody that's watched it like a million times, I haven't watched it since probably 2003 or 2004. So,
And so, does anything other than the practical effects like stick out in your mind as something that you're like, "Whoa, I hadn't seen that in a while," or
no, I mean, I don't really remember a whole lot about it other than it's like, what are they fucking psychics or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bunch of psychics and this college professor. I think she's a college professor, Nancy Travis's character.
And they go into this house and it's haunted, and then like what the spirits come out and like start dicking with them. Is that the basic gist of the movie?
Yeah, basically, not a really elaborate plot. Turk says Rose Red was 5 out of 10. You be as high off nostalgia. I get it.
I mean, I have no idea what it would be now. I just know it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I know that I like watched the hell out of it when it first came out. So I would definitely have to go back and watch it again. I
Well,
just
like I was saying earlier, this was right about the time when, for me anyway, the Stephen King miniseries started to change. You know, uh, I started out with it. It was the first Stephen King miniseries for television that I watched, and watched Tommy Knockers, which a lot of people don't like, and the Langoliers, which was terrible, but you know, and Mick Garris's version of The Shining, Uncle Bill. I still stand by the fact that that is not a bad movie.
so let me guess. Let me fucking guess here, Dana.
Yeah,
What rating did you give Rose Red?
Rose Red, I gave a 3.
You gave that a 3. What rating did you give The Shining? Or what rating would you give The Shining?
I probably gave it a 4 or 5.
God, you need to stop this. Shit, man. Fucking insanity.
You need to go back and watch it again. That's what I say.
No, I mean, I know for a fact. I know for a fact right now, without going back and watching it, that it's better than the Shining miniseries. I will wager anything on that. So whatever the rating is of Rose Red, the Shining miniseries is going to be many, many steps below that.
Okay, so what? Okay, so
pumpkin-headed
what?
kid.
What do you give Rose Red?
Without going back and even watching it again, I'd give it like I want to give it a 4, but I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay, I still don't have the damn halves, but
Well,
all
Dana,
right.
that ain't my fault. You're supposed to be working on getting the halves.
Envision a half. Hey,
Okay.
making these half deadites ain't the only damn thing I got to do in my life.
Now that needs to be top of the priority list. Is making half of them deadites.
TJ says Dana's scale is what she enjoys, not if it's a well-made movie. Hey, TJ.
No, that ain't right. Dana's scale ain't right. You just got to accept the fact that the Shining miniseries ain't worth shit.
Now, Dirk, are you giving the Shining miniseries 2 out of 5 or Rose Red? He's probably giving the Shining miniseries a 2 out of 5. Okay, so you want to move on to Dreamcatcher? You want to?
No, I'm not done talking about how shitty the Shining miniseries is, Dana.
Well, you should have been on the damn stream when I was talking about it.
First of all, you got the guy from Wings. That should be enough right there.
Steven Weber.
That's enough. That should seal the deal for you.
You had the other guy from Wings on Storm of the Century. Everybody didn't hate on Storm of the Century, did they? You had Tim Daly on Storm of the Century.
Look what he put.
Hey,
I swear to God,
Dirk.
that's true, Dirk. That's what I'm saying. Like if Rose Red is a 2 out of 5, then the Shining miniseries is definitely a 0.
Dirk,
it's at least.
You hurt my heart with that, Dirk. Come on.
Negative
10 out of 5. Now you're making my heart cry now.
Oh God, him and that fucking polo mallet, like walking around with his jacked up
teeth. That's what the freaking book had, Uncle Bill.
Look, I'm telling you, just because a book has something in it, don't mean they need to film it. I mean, the It book had a gang rape scene in it, or gang sex group sex scene.
You can't film that.
You can, but you shouldn't. And the same thing goes for that fucking mallet and those damn hedge animals. You should not film that either. They should not be in a movie. They could very well nowadays have gotten away with showing some sort of little weird.
Now, did I ever say that Kubrick's version of The Shining was not a great horror film? No, I did not.
Here's what I want to know right now, Dana. Here's what I want to know before we move any further into this with you. Which one of those do you like better? The Kubrick one or the, I don't even know who directed that. Mick Garris.
No, you got to ask me in a certain way, Uncle Bill. You got to ask me which one is more faithful to the book.
Hold on.
Which one's more faithful to the book? It's definitely not Kubrick's.
I'll ask you in a certain way. You ready? Hey, Dana, which one do you like better? Is that all right?
You know that's not what I meant.
Perfect.
As a great horror film, Kubrick's film is a great horror film, but it's not a faithful adaptation of Stephen King's book. It's just not. No matter how you look at it, it is not.
Okay. Which one do you like better?
That's not a fair question when we're dealing with apples and oranges here.
Is there something I can hang myself with around me?
I'm going to stick by this. I love Kubrick's film as a horror film. I love Mick Garris's Shining miniseries as a faithful adaptation to Stephen King's work, and that's where I'm going to leave it at. It's apples and oranges, Uncle Bill. Apples and oranges.
No, it's apples and apples. Oh, so here's the thing. If you ask me, hey, which one do you like better, Dawn of the Dead or the Dawn of the Dead remake? I could easily be like, Dawn of the Dead. Like, which film
Dawn
do
of
you
the
like
Dead was
better?
in a book first, Uncle Bill.
I don't give a shit about the book. Which film do you like better? Like, which film would you sit down and want to watch more so?
So, okay, are you saying which one's a classic?
No, I'm saying which film would you want to watch more? Which one do you like better?
I like them both in different ways,
No,
Uncle
that's
Bill.
not how this works. You can't like them both in different ways. You have to like one of them more than the other one. In anything, there's going to be a winner of these.
Well, okay, you go with what Darren said. Darren says Kubrick's film is a masterpiece. McGarris's adaptation is a piece of shit. Their case closed.
But see that's correct. But also it's a response. So tell me, which one do you like better, Dan?
Can't answer that. It's apples and oranges. I told you. Kubrick was not interested in making a faithful adaptation of Stephen King's book. He was interested in making Stanley Kubrick's version of what he thought The Shining should be. Okay.
I got it. Hold on, I'll help you with this. Ask me, Uncle Bill, which one do you like better? Carrie, the original, or Carrie the remake, or Carrie the part 2, The Rage? Because those are based on a book. Go ahead.
That's a easy one. It should be easy for both me and you.
Go
You
ahead,
know.
ask me.
So I'm gonna
Ask
ask
me real
you.
quick.
Okay, which one do you like the best?
The original.
Okay.
1,000 times. The other two ain't worth a shit. Now, which one of them do you like better?
I will not. I refuse.
This ain't a
to
trick
answer
question.
that. It is too a trick question.
Not multiple choice either. Let's go, Dana.
Nope.
Gun to your head. Somebody
This
breaks
is
into your house.
a essay style answer to that question. You have to write a freaking essay on that.
Here's a scenario. Somebody breaks in, kills Steve. God forbid. Rapes him to death. Grapes him to death, I should say. And they're like, they got a gun to your head. And they're like, Dana, for you to live, you have to pick one of these two films. And you're like, oh my God, which two films could it be? And they're like, it's your worst nightmare. Because you got to pick between Kubrick's The Shining.
Steve would be dead. Case closed.
What? No, I mean, Steve's already dead. They've got a gun to your head now, and they're like, okay,
I'd have to die. I'd have to die. Case closed. Because that's a ridiculous question.
So you'd just be like, shoot me in the head. I can't decide between these two.
Yeah, shoot me in the head so I don't have to hear Uncle Bill go on and on about this.
All right, so it's clear. It's clear that we're not gonna like get an answer about these two. Even though I think it's fair to say that one is objectively a better film, but whatever. So, Dreamcatcher. That's another one where I really love that movie all the way up to the point where the dude got the British accent and where he was like invaded by the alien in such a way. Invaded is a nice term.
Yeah, that's a very nice term.
And he started using that British accent. And at that point, I was like, this is a horrible decision by him. Like everything about it, like the tone of what he was doing and like the way that they were doing the film, it took like a 180 nosedive. And also that's around the same point in the movie too. I think that Morgan Freeman comes into it, and Morgan Freeman did not need to be in that fucking movie either. Like he looked like that's not somebody that belonged in that movie at all. So it's almost like he's in a completely different movie than the other people that are in the movie. And from that point on, nothing in that movie really like worked to me. But when it was just about them as like being, childhood friends and, growing up and like they still all knew each other and they were going out to the cabin and yada, yada. When it's kind of like It in that way. It's like, so the first part of the It miniseries is by far the best part. And the first part of this movie is actually to me really, really good. It's the second part of it when like they're trying to like close it up
Yeah.
and the army comes into it, and he starts the British bullshit. Like, I was just like, there's no way. Like, this is
So, do
awful.
you think it was bad writing on Stephen King's part, or do you think it was lazy filmmaking?
I don't know because I've never read that book, but
Oh, okay.
if he's got that dude giving a British fucking accent, and like,
That I
uh,
can't remember if he has that or not because it's been a while since I read it. And
but I mean, I've got to imagine that they probably got into the middle of making that film and just uh, either ran out of ideas of how they were going to like do certain scenes, or like tried to cobblestone a bunch of stuff together or something, because like the second half of that movie is a mess. It's just a friggin' mess to try to watch. And it changes so much in tone and everything that's going on. Like, once that guy's killed, that it's like you're watching a different movie. And
exactly.
no, that's the other part of that movie I don't like either. Nobody acts like you think they should act
Mm-mm.
based on their characters. Like, after that happens, like they don't they're not following like what the character would be like, that of as the audience member up to that point. So I mean, and the sad thing is I really, really like that cast, and I really, really like that movie up until that point. But man, it really falls apart. Um, I would give that movie a 2.
I gave it a 3 too because I kind of gave it the benefit of a doubt, but Uncle Bill gives it 2 deadites out of 5. And Dirk did ask a question that, like, everybody was going crazy when you and I were going back and forth over the Shining miniseries versus
As
Cooper.
well they should be, yeah.
But let's see how exactly okay. Dirk wants to know, okay, what's the best adaptation of any of King's work? And for me, I'd
God.
have to, if I was talking about his early stuff, I would tend to go more towards the drama stuff than the horror stuff, because like Stand By Me, and these weren't full books, these were novellas too. But then later on, things like the Shawshank Redemption, which I absolutely love, The Green Mile, which started out as a serial novel.
Well, break it down into 2 different categories then. What's the best horror adaptation, and then what's the best, like, non-horror adaptation?
Best horror one. Um,
Because
you
that
know,
would be incredibly hard for me to even think of that
It's
one.
hard for me, but I think my pick for today is The Dead Zone.
That's the same for me. I know that's weird, but I just watched that movie again a couple days ago, and I'm like, it's an insanely well-made movie in every way, and it's the only movie I've ever seen Christopher Walken in, um, aside from maybe, like, 1 or 2 others that were really early on, where he's not being like Christopher Walken.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Yeah.
just being like an actor. He's not
Mm.
pulling that shit. The only part where you even see a hint of Walken is where he busts that fucking uh whatever that is with the cane, and he's
Oh,
like,
when
"The
he says
ice will break," and
the
he like, but
ice is gonna break.
there's a Walkenism in that, but
Yeah,
like that's the only part. Yeah.
yeah. He's not talking about sticking watches up his ass or anything
It's
like
not
that.
he's not even doing that voice like he does
No.
now or anything.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Cronenberg. I mean, this was unlike anything else Cronenberg ever did. And he was just masterful with this movie. I have always loved the Dead Zone from the time I was a kid. I loved the Dead Zone. Um, but then if you want to talk about non horror, because there are plenty of horror aspects to the Dead Zone, but a non horror one, probably the first, other than Stand By Me, because I have a nostalgia fondness for Stand By Me, which was based on the novella The Body. But the Shawshank Redemption really um, probably was the first Stephen King film adaptation in a long time that really got in my heart and was like, this is about, this is feels like it's about real people and what they're having to go through, and somebody being wrongly accused of something and being in prison for years and years and years, and he finally escapes, and the most elaborate escape I have ever seen on film, I think, is what Andy Dufresne does. And Tim Robbins is fantastic. Tim Robbins started out in a lot of comedic roles, but he really takes this and runs with it.
Maybe the only movie I ever really liked Tim Robbins in, to be honest.
Really?
And yeah, and it to me, the only bad part about Shawshank is it suffers from like the same thing as a lot of great movies. Like once you they have like really great endings. Like once you've seen the ending, like you've seen the ending, so you can't ever go back and experience it the same way
Right.
again. But that being said, like it's good enough of a movie that it'll hold the test of time forever. Like you got The Green Mile, you got Stand By Me, you got you know one you could argue about, and everybody does argue about it, is The Mist. Which you want to talk about one that like changed the the source material. Like that should be the one that like
Mm.
most catches shit about changing source material.
That
Uh,
one pissed a lot of people off.
oh yeah. But I mean there's a lot of great movies that he did that you could choose from. Like that are even ones that are like non-horror.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one I would pick out of his that's non-horror. Because like Stand By Me is like you said, great. So is Shawshank. So is The Green Mile.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other ones though? There's some we must be forgetting.
Well, I'm sure there are, but
There's somebody in here will name them, I'm sure.
I'm trying to think of the ones that just, it. But here's something: if you want to talk about, I'm not even talking about good adaptations. I'm talking about fun adaptations. Okay, Maximum Overdrive is fun
Yeah.
to me. I don't care if Stephen King was coked up to his ass
Oh, he
on that.
was.
That was that was a fun movie. And I don't know. I'm not sure why Maximum Overdrive gets so much hate. It's too much fun to get that much hate.
Uh, you're right, but I think it was just I don't know. I mean, like the other people that were doing his films around that time, like made like classic adaptations of
Hmm.
his. And Maximum Overdrive, for whatever it is not like a classic, well-made film. Really, I mean,
Well,
it's
no,
fun,
it's
it's
not.
entertaining as hell, and it's great in like a cheesy B movie kind of way. But it's not like Carrie. It's not like The Dead Zone. It's not
No.
like The Shining. It's not like any of those movies. It
But
just
those
doesn't.
movies were meant to be taken seriously. I don't think Maximum Overdrive. I don't think King meant for that to be taken seriously.
I don't think he was like able to make it be taken seriously at that point in his life. Like, I don't think he could make a serious movie really. I love Maximum. I mean, what is there not to love about that movie? Because it's got like the AC/DC soundtrack. It's got Emilio Estevez and like just a
Yeah, hot Emilio Estevez. I know Uncle Bill's not going to say that, but I mean, I'm going to say it.
crazy like plot, great like visual of the big green goblin truck that stays with everybody to this day. So there's some great scenes in that movie too, like where the pop machine kills the guy and the kid gets run over by the steamroller and Stephen King and
You probably wouldn't be able to do that today. A kid getting run over by a steamroller, and the last shot you see is it going over that kid's head. The
yeah, it's
little
rough.
league player gets crushed by the steamroller.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean,
But it's weird to
no,
me that like the late 70s, early 80s were like the heyday of King adaptations.
Yeah.
and from like to the mid 80s. And then once you get into the 90s and shit, with the exception of like, talking about his horror films, with the exception of a couple of them, like and especially the miniseries, they start like significantly dropping off. Like, I don't know what, maybe it was just because horror was dropping off in general, but it was bad.
Well, like with the Langoliers, I think they just tried too hard with that, and it failed miserably.
Well, fuck, I don't remember what year the golden years and stuff like that came out, but
I like the Golden Years.
let's
I
you
had
had
fun with that one.
you had what was it? So you had like s- uh Riding the Bullet. That was
Yeah,
the Mick Garris one, which I actually don't mind that one, but it's kind of stupid. Like, it's Mick
I'm
Garris, so
gonna
it's
be covering that
going to
one
be kind of stupid.
upcoming. I'm not really sure when, but
You had the Langoliers, you had that one, you had like the fucking Salem's Lot remake of with
mm,
Rob Lowe.
yeah, that's painful.
You- Dana, here's the thing though. I don't know how you don't like that, but you're like the Shining miniseries. That's where it's at. That's fucking
I don't know.
that's fucking killer. Like, huh.
But I forgot to talk about Misery. Misery's a great one.
Would you consider Misery to be a horror film? Because I don't.
No, it's probably, I mean, maybe a thriller or something, or a drama thriller, I don't know. Not an all out horror. Although Kathy Bates was pretty scary as Annie Wilkes in it. She's batshit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that I would put that, but like, it's almost, if you think about it, the same type of movie as like Audition, or Audition is the same type of movie as it is, but like a lot less gruesome when it gets to the point of like, you know, whatever happens, because it's based on one person and like their captor, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah.
Firestarter, I never liked Firestarter. I just never did.
Always,
Um,
I think I've got a lot of nostalgia for Firestarter because it's a movie I remember watching over and over and over when I was a kid.
Night Flyer is good. Sleepwalkers is horrible. I think we all know that.
But
But
there's something fun about Sleepwalkers, though. It's
yeah,
not good, but it's
no,
just something's fun about it.
cat incest. I mean, that's always.
God. Um, well, if you want to talk about like anthology type films, I mean, Creepshow, you know, uh, with King teaming up with Romero. I mean, that was just a dream. That was a dream scenario right there. King and Romero
Oh
uh,
yeah,
working together, and Savini doing the special effects and all that. That was a almost perfect film and a fantastic anthology film too.
Needful Things. Somebody mentioned. Chris mentioned
Needful
that's
thing.
a great, probably the most underrated Stephen King adaptation, I think.
Oh, Tangerine Dream, Ben. I love Tangerine Dream, and I do really like the Firestarter soundtrack. George C. Scott, you brought him up too. I brought this up before. The one scene that just gives me goosebumps, it just makes my blood run cold, is when George C. Scott is pretending that he's a janitor or orderly or something named John, and he goes to Charlie and he's trying to get her to use her powers for the shop. And what he's an assassin, but Charlie doesn't know that. And so he acts like he was in the war and that, the Viet Cong had gotten him and put him, in a hole in the ground or whatever, but he can't stand the dark. And then she gets real sleepy later, and he lays her down on the bed, and she says, "Good night, Daddy." And that smile that goes across George C. Scott's face there is bone chilling. It's very hard for me to watch that scene because that's just he's just evil. You just know he's evil right there.
Somebody
Dolores Claiborne, that's a great non-horror one, TJ.
when you mention when you mention Tangerine Dream, like I immediately think of Sorcerer because that's who did the soundtrack for Sorcerer, which is
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite soundtracks. And the story behind that soundtrack, or how they got them to do that too, is also amazing for that movie.
Well, didn't Tangerine Dream do the music for Risky Business, or am I
Maybe.
thinking wrong?
I mean, it's possible. They were doing a bunch of stuff around that time period.
Dirk says Amazon. I guess Amazon canceled his order for Sorcerer. Well, that sucks.
If you've got a region-free player, you can get it on Orbit.
Oh,
They've got a really good Blu-ray. What's the best Stephen King cameo? That's actually a pretty good question. That you could think of in any of his movies.
I almost have to go back to Maximum Overdrive at the beginning.
It's a pretty good one, yeah.
But I mean, he's great as Jordy Verrill in the Creep Show segment. I don't know if that would count as a cameo since he's on the whole segment, but he's a truck driver in Creep Show 2. I think he's a cemetery caretaker in Sleepwalkers.
He's the priest in Pet
priest
Sematary.
of Pet Cemetery, yeah. I'm trying to think of all of the different cameos he had.
I mean, he went a period there where he was in almost all those movies.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, though. The Maximum Overdrive one might be the best, like just because it's the funniest.
Yeah. Chris says as soon as Friedkin died, that BD went out of print. Well, yeah.
He still gets those in all the time, though. Talking about the guy from Orbit.
Right.
He almost every week I see him get like new copies of that in. I guess
they
people
restock really, really well and really, really quickly at that place. TJ says, by the way, The Evil Dead opened on April 15th, 1983. Where's your retrospective data? I'm sorry, TJ. I'm slipping. Yep, that's right, Batman. Honey, this machine just called me an asshole. I can't do it like Stephen King, but Ben, you say you wish Friedkin was alive to talk about Exorcist Believer?
I think we all know what he would say.
He's probably rolling over in his grave about that movie. Boy, the chat's really popping tonight. I don't know if it's you or me, Uncle Bill. It's probably you.
Well, fuck all that. Let's get back to The Shining. So there's a nuclear bomb. There's a nuclear war in Dana. And you have to defuse it. And the only way you can defuse it is to answer one question. That question is, which
we're all gonna die in a nuclear apocalypse, Uncle Bill. There's my answer.
You're gonna melt everybody because you won't answer which Shining
it's
you like better.
It's a foolish question. I don't answer foolish questions.
How is it foolish to ask which movie you prefer?
Because I told you
that's like the most basic question.
Dark's laughing because you said fuck the chat.
No, I didn't say fuck the chat. I said fuck all that. But
that's what you really meant, according to
I want to get down to the real business here, Dana, which is which one movies is, I don't even say it's the better film. I'm not even saying that. I'm not saying it's a better movie. I'm just
Okay, so what
asking,
are you saying?
which one would you say, like, that you would prefer to watch? Like, if you're sitting down and
It
you're like,
depends. Do I want to
I'm gonna
watch
watch
a
a
straight
movie.
do I want to watch a straight, classic horror film, or do I want to watch a faithful adaptation to Stephen King's book? That's a question you
No,
got to ask.
no, because I don't know. Nobody thinks that way. Like, I don't think about faithful adaptations versus like regular
I do
shit. I
when
just
it's
think of
my
like
favorite writer of all time.
which film do I like to watch? Which film would I like to watch
Okay, you
more?
answer your own question then.
Okay. What's the question?
Well, the question that you asked me, which one would you rather watch? And I know which one you'd rather watch, Kubrick's.
Well, yeah, objectively, that movie is like a classic and a masterpiece. And then you got Mick Garrett's dumbass running around with hedge animals and Steven Weber. I don't understand.
And Channels.
And the
You
kid with
make it sound
the
like
kid that looks like he's got a hatchet like shoved into his face. Like, I don't understand. I'm
you make it
sorry.
sound like Steven Weber just hopped on one of them hedge animals like, yeehaw, boy.
It wouldn't have surprised me. I'm surprised there wasn't that scene in that movie. He's
Uh,
riding around chasing him with a polo.
okay, Darren has got a better question. He's phrased it better.
Oh God! Well,
Dana,
thank
which
God for
version do
Darren.
you watch more? That would be Kubrick's version. I do watch Kubrick's version more than the McGarris version. So take from that what you will.
So you think that's a better movie then? Clearly, and I agree with you. It is. And so we solved it. It only took like an hour, but we got to it, Dana.
Darren knew how to phrase it.
That's the key, is the phrasing.
Mm. Ben wants to know, which Shining would you take to a deserted island? Well, Uncle Bill would
Okay, wait a
probably take.
minute. Wait a minute. This is horse shit reasoning here. Okay, TJ, you're in a dark alleyway. You're in a dark alleyway, and somebody comes running at you with either A, an axe, or B, a fucking polo mallet. Which one would you rather like see?
I've said this before though, an axe is more cinematically threatening than a polo mallet or a croquet mallet, whatever you want to call it.
If
I
somebody
agree.
came up to me with a fucking polo mallet, I'd just throw a couple of balls on the ground and we play cricket or something. Like, I wouldn't immediately think that that's the dumbest shit ever. Like, if somebody walks up to you with an axe, you pretty much know shit's on, right? Like, there's not a fire inside your head. So that's the only reason you would need an axe.
Hey, Alpha. I haven't seen you for a while. Alpha Romero.
Oh,
A lot of people I haven't seen in a long, long time.
oh yeah, croquet. I'm sorry, not cricket. Cricket's the shit that you do with the bats. A baseball bat versus an axe. I'll still take the baseball bat. I feel like there's a better way to defend yourself against a baseball bat than an axe. What else you want to talk about? You want to talk about how bad that kid's acting was? The fact they brought Rebecca De Mornay in and she had like
Hey,
maybe
there's
10
nothing
lines.
wrong with Rebecca De Mornay.
You know what? You're right. And the sad part about it is she's the best part of that whole thing, and you barely see her. You barely see her ass in that movie. And he was always talking about yada fucking yada. Shelley Duvall ain't got nothing. Well, what the hell did Rebecca De Mornay do in there?
Well, Rebecca De Mornay, for one thing, matched Stephen King's description of Wendy. Maybe we can blame Mick Garris for that because he didn't give Rebecca De Mornay enough to do in the movie.
I definitely blame Mick Garris for damn near everything about that movie.
Yes, you do see her ass in Risky Business, Ben. You definitely You see quite a bit of Rebecca De Mornay in that movie.
Um,
I
but real
TJ,
quick though,
I did say, well, I don't think I said the kid was great. I said when I watched it again, the kid was not as annoying as he was the first time around.
he's
Oh,
peach.
Alpha Romero, you say that I usually stream when you're in the middle of fighting your 3-year-old. Okay. Oh man, if you got a 3-year-old, you well, Uncle Bill's had 3-year-olds. So, how much fighting do you do with a 3-year-old, Uncle Bill?
Um, 3 is usually a pretty good age. At least it has been in my experience. I fight more with them when they get up to about like 9 or 10 than I do
So
with the 3.
so by now you've done a lot of fighting with Piper. Is that
Oh
what you're
Lord,
saying?
yeah, you have no idea.
Piper seems like such a good girl.
She is, but she's like a teenager. She's literally a teenager now.
Yeah, I know it.
So it's like, God, they just think they know. It's the same shit you always hear, and it's actually 100% true. They think they know everything. They don't want to hear anything about anything. They want to hang out with their damn friends all the time, and like their friends are the goofiest collection of like miscreants you've ever seen in your life. But like, you gotta let them do it. They ain't got none of them ain't got any sense. They don't know what they're doing, but they think they're geniuses.
That's the same thing our parents said about us, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a stereotypical, but it also is true.
Mm.
It's also 100% true.
But we don't realize that till we get older. It's you know, I got to tell a story about my dad because my dad has so many funny stories. When he was a teenager, him and his brothers wanted to go out, riding around in the car because that's what people did back in the 70s. They went cruising around and there was ice on the road or it had been, it'd been sleeting or something like that. And my granddad's mom told him and said, "You boys better not go out on that road. You'll end up in an accident." And Dad smarted off and said something like, "Oh, Mom, you're foolish," or something. And they went out and flipped the car upside down. And Dad was hanging upside down in the car screaming for his brothers to get him out of there. So, yeah, and then we have not the exact replay, but Dad was always telling, "This is what you need to do, kids," and we would never listen to him. Dad was smart about money and stuff like that, and I'm terrible with money.
Yeah, see, the funny thing is, like, more and more I think about like stuff that my dad was trying to tell me, the more and more I realize that he was right. But you
Yeah.
don't pay any attention to any of that stuff when you actually should, when it would actually like benefit you. You
No,
just do whatever.
you say,
And
"Oh,
you figure it out in hindsight. Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have made so many mistakes." Steve can tell you I'm horrible, horrible with money. I don't ever have a budget. I don't ever think about stuff. I just buy stuff when I want it and it just drives him absolutely crazy. But if I had listened to my dad growing up when he told me you need to save money, you don't need to buy something just at the moment that it comes out, you need to wait and all that stuff, I'd be like, "Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I got to buy it right now." Um, Oh my goodness, Batman, you say you literally told your sister that her kids make you want to perform a vasectomy on yourself? Man, that's bad.
Oh God.
Oh, Chris. Chris says he was dumb enough as a kid to throw rocks at his dad's 70s GMC Jimmy and he got the belt.
Mm-hmm.
My dad threatened with the belt a lot, but he never used the belt on us. He just threatened. I don't think we would have really wanted my dad to use the belt on us. Mom used the belt on me one time. She felt so bad because the belt buckle hit me when she went to slap me with it. It made a big old welt on my leg, and she felt awful for a while after that. Your mom ever whip you, Uncle Bill,
One
or
time,
switch you, or
one time that I can remember, and it was because like I walked out in front of like a car.
oh well, yeah. I hate to say it, Uncle Bill, but you kind of deserve that one.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
probably scared her to death.
My dad never whipped me. My grandmother whipped me one time. That was it.
I don't think
And I
either of my
really, really deserved that. Yeah.
what'd you do bad then? Do you remember?
She kept telling me not to get into the refrigerator and get something out. And then like I just kept doing it over and over again. And finally she just beat the shit out of me and just shut the refrigerator. But yeah.
Was
So
that your
that was well deserved.
was that your dad's mom or your mom's mom?
My dad's mom.
Mm.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
despite being in Eastern Kentucky, which I'm sure is per capita probably the most ass whipping part of any state, I would say. And my family was not really into that.
Alpha Romero mentions belts and switches and spoons. I never had a spoon used on me. A belt,
No,
yeah. A
nobody used any
switch.
implements either. Let me tell you what did happen back then, though, in those days. Dana, and you're probably, I know you remember this too. It wasn't really my parents that you had to worry about because back in them days, teachers would beat the dog shit out of kids with paddles.
Oh
And these
yeah.
paddles were like, I can't even imagine somebody doing this nowadays. Like they would people would have a fucking fit. They would like have kids sign the paddle. They would drill holes in the paddle so it would whistle as it was like towards you. They would like shellac it with stuff and make it like, they would make it in like shop and then like lacquer it and stuff and make it into like basically something that would kill you. And they would beat the dog shit out of these kids. Like I
Yeah.
saw kids take ass whippings that like grown-ups probably wouldn't walk away from with them fucking things. Like it's crazy to think of that now. They were just using clubs essentially just
Yeah, and
beat
this
these
is when
kids.
we were in elementary school. These are
Yeah, I'm talking
elementary
about
school
like,
kids.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about second grade, third grade kids just throwing them around like raw, just
I never got the paddle, but I had a mean teacher like in third grade that I don't know why she did it, but she sent me out in the hall. Do you remember getting sent out in the hall when you would do something,
oh yeah.
talk when you wasn't supposed to or something like
That's what they used to do, right? Like so they would send you out in the hallway. You were a couple of people, right?
hmm
A couple of kids that were doing it. Usually like, hey, you need to chill. Hold on, let me let this one out.
uh let's see. Alvaro Romero, you said my principal in elementary school had an electric paddle. We didn't fuck around with that. um Well, Batman, I think, yeah, too many parents will say, you can't do that to my child. I don't ever remember my parents saying anything. Of course, me and my brother never got in trouble at school where we would get the paddle, but I knew some kids that did get the paddle, and you heard them. They would take them out in the hallway, and like Uncle Bill said, they beat the shit out of them with those paddles.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like what usually happened at my school, and I'm assuming this is pretty like across the board, is they would take like you and a group of whoever else outside of the classroom, right? And then they would stop the fucking class right in the middle of it and go out there and they'd have you line up against the wall, almost like you were being like, not strip searched, but like patted down by the cops. So
Mhm.
you put your arms against that, you put your ass out. And sometimes if they really wanted to be dicks about it, they'd have you like grab your ankles, like, and I'd seen that happen before too. And then they would just go down the line, beating the mortal shit out of
Mhm.
your ass. And sometimes, they'd hit you in the fucking kidneys or something if they missed. So it was like, it was brutal back in
Oh
those
my
days.
goodness, Darren. Darren said I had a blackboard wiper thrown at me by a teacher. It was rock hard wood and gave me a black eye.
Yeah. They
Of
used to
course, they
hit
could
you
get
with
away with that.
anything. Like, the pointers, some of them had the chalk in them and some of them were just like pointers. They'd hit you with that shit, like smack you on the hands and like,
Mhm.
hit you over the
I
top of
had
the head.
I had a real old school substitute teacher. I mean, she must have been 90 years old when I had her as a substitute teacher. And she was one of those that would slap your back of your hand with a ruler or something. I mean, she was real old school and she was a mean old woman. Very mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think how different that is now and how like if I don't even think kids today could imagine like a scenario like that, right? Like
Mm.
where somebody pulls out a big paddle and like a first grader or something. Think about a first grader now. Think about any first grader that you can think of now, if you know any, and just imagine like a grown ass man coming up to this first grader with a paddle and
Yeah.
just wearing them out.
But you know what, Uncle Bill, the women teachers were as bad or worse as the men teachers with that stuff, at least in my school.
Well, 90% of the teachers were women,
Mhm.
but most of the time, for some reason, like the principal was a man, and he in my school at elementary school, he loved whipping the shit out of kids. I mean, you figure it out. Like, but that was his thing. He was also not really all there either. And in later years, he got dementia. So I believe that probably like it was starting, you
It
know,
was starting then when he
around
was
that time.
beating kids.
But I mean, yeah, he loved to do that kind of stuff.
Batman, you bring up a good point. Some of us that had our asses tore up, and we still turned out fine. You know, you were actually punished for the bad things that you did. I mean, I'm not saying you should beat a kid half to death. I'm just saying we knew if we did something bad, we were going to be punished, and that punishment was going to include something that was going to hurt, you know? So therefore, you didn't want to do it again. Now kids they don't have repercussions for anything. That's why I think that kids run wild and say, have you ever heard, like, I'm not talking about Uncle Bill's kids. I think Uncle Bill's kids were raised up better than that. But you see a lot of kids just go up to their parents and say the most disrespectful, awful things. That if I had said
Well,
that to my mom and dad, they would have knocked me a winding when I was a kid.
I think that, I mean, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think that paddling or whipping anybody really had anything to do with anything. Like, I don't think it helped or hurt or anything like that. Really, I just think it was kind of there. Um, it was not something that was, like I said, a common practice in my household, and like I don't think that it did anything to me. I mean, I'm fairly well adjusted. I got a job, do fairly well. Like I don't think it had any bearing on anything like that. And like most of the people, that did get whipped or that was a huge part of their life, it seemed like that they struggled a lot more with anxiety and like issues and
I
things
think
like that.
if you do, like, if a kid's getting, I don't want to say beatings, but if they're getting whipped daily, yeah, I didn't get whipped that often. Um, and I think that might be, if you're going to use that as a form of punishment, you don't need to do it to the kid every day. Um, it needs to be done for a really bad thing. Like if the kid, I don't know, they leave some bubble gum in the pocket of their jeans and you wash their jeans, you don't beat them half to death for doing that. But some parents would. I mean, literally, they would.
But honest to God though, nowadays, and this is gonna make me sound really, really old, which I am. But nowadays, like the biggest problem for kids is nobody's paying attention to them and they're not paying attention to anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's like every social skill you can think of is just deteriorating right in front of our eyes. like for everybody, really. So like, I mean, I don't know what this generation of kids are going to be like. Um, I imagine they'll be very good technologically, but like I don't know what happens when a whole generation of parents are not paying attention to their
I'm
kids
afraid
and
we're going
their
to get a whole
kids.
generation of psychopaths. That's what I think we're going to get.
I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to go that far, like with it, but it's like, what would the repercussions be, Dana? Like, I mean, if you took a bunch of people and you just, you know, they didn't really have any positive or negative interaction with other people other than like a screen of some kind.
Yeah.
And then they're also only able to really like interact with people based on either what's on that screen or through that
Yeah, they
medium.
have no
I don't
social
know.
skills is, is part of it, I think. They don't know how to interact with people because, like you said, kids today, they're either looking at a phone screen or a computer screen or a
And this
laptop screen or
Yeah,
what.
this is all kind of new too, because like our generation,
Mhm.
we went, at least I did, 20 years without ever being, connected to any kind of device.
Yeah.
Like ever having a phone or I don't know, I think I was 16, 17 before the internet even, like having a computer with internet and things like that. So it's like we went an entire, early life without any of that. This
Yeah.
is the first, like, well, first or second, I don't know. Guess it's the second generation really of people. But it seems like this is probably the first that solely like had social media, like TikTok, Facebook, um, Instagram, like all that shoved down their throats, like from the time that they were like born. I have no earthly idea what the result of that is going to be. Like
Mm-mm.
I can't really fathom it now that I think about it.
And the way I talk, it makes me sound like I hate kids. I don't hate kids. I worry. I worry about, the generation now, the generation that's going to come after them. Because, like Uncle Bill says, nobody's watching out for these kids. Nobody even knows what these kids are doing, you know. And I saw this when I hate to say the early days of school shootings, but when Columbine happened, for instance, the parents didn't even know what those boys were doing. They were like making bombs and stuff in the basement. How can the parents not know that? I just don't. My parents knew, at least my mom knew what I was doing at all times.
I think I could have made a bomb or two, Dana, if I'd wanted to. Nobody would know about it.
Are you
At
saying
least in my like early
your mom
20s.
would have known?
Well, I don't know about it if I not probably not in high school. You're right. Um, but some people are referencing like Nintendo and things like that. That's to me is a whole different thing because
Yeah,
Nintendo,
it's different. Yeah.
yeah, Nintendo didn't. You put in a game and then like you got bored of the game and you had to do like you can never get bored with the fucking internet the way it is now because it's got a million different things for anything you
And
would
it
ever
keeps
want to like.
evolving all the time.
It just hijacks your fucking brain, man, because like it's like anything you ever want is right at your fingertips all the time. Like you can just go down a rabbit hole. And I've watched, you know, um, kids do the real thing where you get on Instagram and you go into the reels that are like 30 seconds or whatever, and it's just over and over and over and over and over again, like a new thing. What's going to be the result of that? Fuck if I know, but it's got to do something to your brain.
I wanted to go outside and do, my brother, not so much because he was scared of every bug or anything that he would scream every time an ant crawled on him or, something like that. I'm making my brother sound like the
Holy
biggest
shit, Dana.
wimp. I love my brother. I do. But I always wanted to be outside. I wanted to be exploring. And I remember my dad telling my mom that Lori, you're gonna have to let them kids go a little bit. He said, when I was her
Yeah.
age, I was going out night fishing or frog gigging or something, You can tell I'm country, can't you? Talking about that kind of stuff. But my mom had to always know if we were out of her sight as kids, she'd be yelling out the back door, "Where are you, Dana? Jason, where are you at? I can't see you." If she couldn't see us out the kitchen window, like if she was washing dishes and couldn't see us, she'd be yelling out that back door. And she'd go into a panic if we had left the yard for whatever reason.
That's another thing that's changed quite a bit too, I think. Um, I don't see it a lot anymore. It's just like letting kids go off and do things. Like, um, when I was 7 or 8, something like that, like you just went out and just left the house. And then you came back at the end of the day. And then I don't think there was a lot of like thought about like what might happen to you in that interim or anything like that, like there is now. Um, and I guess that could be a good or a bad thing too, but I don't see kids even wanting to do that, really.
That they don't, because they're too addicted to their devices. They can't they can't break away from them. And I agree with you, Uncle Bill, that the Nintendo, the game systems and stuff like that was a totally different thing than what we've got now. I mean, and Darren brings up a good point. He says kids don't appreciate these things these days. Everything is there at the touch of a button. Trying to get a hold of or watching a film was a mission back in the day. Yeah, we had to work for that stuff if we wanted to find it. Now everything's just pretty much handed to them. I'm feeling sorry for Batman. He's talking about his siblings beating
Jesus.
up on him, and he said he sometimes wishes he was an only child. I only had one brother. I had one sibling, and I was the oldest. Um, but Uncle Bill, he's an only child. CK's an only child.
Mm-hmm.
I just sometimes wonder what it's like to be an only child. I mean, I didn't want to be one. I was happy that I had my brother, but did you ever want another sibling, Uncle Bill?
No, I never had any interest in any of that. Um,
I've never asked CK that either, if he ever wanted a sibling.
I mean, it's like what you would imagine it would be. Like you find yourself like being inside of yourself a lot in terms of like using your imagination and things like that.
Hmm.
And doing a lot of solitary things like until you get to the age where you actually like go to school. So, your imagination has to be pretty well developed. Like because
Hmm.
you don't have anybody to really play with except adults up until the point that you go to school.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder about that because, I was an only child for the first 6 years of my life, and then my brother came along. So, um, and me and my brother were always really close. So close, in fact, that we fought a lot growing up. But and we fought a little bit when we got to be adults. But now we've both mellowed, in our older age. I guess we've mellowed. Um, Oh goodness. Alpha Romero says, I used to give my younger sister wrestling moves when we were young, toughened her up.
Throw around,
Well,
ragdoll.
poor Uncle Bill knows about that because Steve threw him around and broke some ribs or
Yeah,
something.
Steve powerbombed me through a table or something. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I just know that y'all were in another room that I wasn't in, and I heard the biggest commotion at that Halloween party that time. That was
I still don't really know what happened. I mean, I've been told, but I have no recollection. I know that.
Oh gosh, Mayor says, which version of The Shining does your brother like? I don't know, Mayor. I don't think I've ever asked my brother that question. Um, but oh my, this has been fun. This has been like a return to form, and I'd love to stay on here all night, but then I wouldn't be able to work, so that would be not so good. And I'm supposed to have my performance evaluation tomorrow for work,
Oh,
so
that'll be fun.
I gotta be sharp, and I might get a. I'm supposed to get a merit increase, which means yay me, pay
Yep.
raise. Then I'll get on here tomorrow night and I'll be all sad. I didn't get hardly anything.
Well, it depends on the company, really. Like mine is interesting because you get a 3 or a 5% based on like whatever your evaluation is. So if you get like a meets expectations, it's 3. If you get like a exceeds, and it's 5. So I don't know how yours does it, but like,
Yeah, I don't know. This is the first because I'm on my second year with Smile Doctors, and your first year you don't get a merit increase. They make you wait until your second year
yeah,
with them. And thank you, Chris. You say great stream. But I've been sitting here, sipping on my baby bottle. That's what Steve calls my zero sugar Mountain Dew, my baby bottle, because I've always got to have one. And but I do want to thank Uncle Bill for coming on here and talking not only Stephen King movies, but we talked about everything in between
I'm
tonight.
glad we finally got to the real thing that I came on here for, was to get you to choose and decide which one of them films was better, Dana, which one of the Shinings, and we got to it. So that's good.
That was your ultimate goal for
That's my
tonight.
ultimate goal for tonight. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know where CK went, but he stopped talking. Pro streamers don't need the bathroom, TJ. Well, what do they do? Put a pot under them? I mean, I don't want to
Probably.
do
Haven't you ever
that.
seen that South Park episode?
Yeah, it's the World of Warcraft episode.
That's what they do.
Oh man, the ass whooping king stream with UV. Dirk says. Thank you, Blissful. Thank you, Darren. Um, but anyway, yeah, I am going to have to run to the restroom, do a couple of things, and get some rest. I'm sure Uncle Bill's got to get some rest before his work day tomorrow too.
Lord,
Um,
yeah.
and dealing with his kids because he'll
I'm gonna
he'll
go out
leave.
there and start whipping ass and just start
No, he'll go out of
spanking
that room
everybody.
he's in, and the kids will say, "Dad," and just attack him. Well,
Uh,
Savannah won't see Uncle Bill no more tonight. He'll be buried under a bunch of kids.
I agree with the mayor though, Dana. Don't tell your boss about you love the Shining miniseries because you won't get a raise.
I
He'll be like,
don't
no.
know. I don't even know if my boss has seen both of those movies. You know, my boss told me he was scared of those type. He was scared of horror movies.
Yeah.
His
Most
daughter
normal
loves
people.
them, but him not so much. Oh boy. Okay, so me and Uncle Bill are going to get out of here, but again, I want to thank Uncle Bill for being on here with me tonight. It made it a lot more fun. I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had a full chat in here most of the time, and I hated that Candace and Chris missed out on it because I sent them the link, but they may have been busy or maybe they hadn't watched these movies or something, and I'll probably be talking to Candace later. But anyway, me and Uncle Bill are out of here for the night. And tomorrow night, I'll be talking about some more Robert England films. You going to join me for that too, Uncle Bill?
What are the films?
Let's see. Hold on a sec. I got to find my paper here. I got too many papers here. I don't know what that is. Anyways. I'm gonna try to find Chud too, even though
Oh
CK
my
tells me
God.
that's not really a Robert Englund film because you don't even see his face or something. But I'm still gonna try to find it to watch. But also Well, daggone it. Where's another page go? Okay, so I'm going to talk about Dance Macabre, Night Terrors, and either if I can find a Perry Mason mystery, The Case of the Lethal Lifestyle, I'll do that one. If not, I'll do New Nightmare.
No.
You don't want to be on there for that?
I ain't seen any of those, so yeah.
You ain't seen New Nightmare?
I've seen New Nightmare, but yeah, but I mean,
Well,
that's.
if I
I don't
decide to
even
do,
like New Nightmare is the thing.
what's wrong with you, Uncle Bill? Come on.
Well, it's a shitty movie, Dana. That's all I think that's
It's
wrong
not,
with
it's
me.
not shitty.
It ain't no count. It's a good idea. It's just not executed well. I go ahead and give it 2 stars. 2 deadites. Sorry.
Thank you, Batman. He says Chud 2 is on Tubi.
You
Yeah, we'll see.
don't watch Chud 2, Dana. Save yourself.
Save myself the pain. Just say no to the King miniseries, Dirk. All right. Well, we're out of here for the night. Y'all take care. Be kind to each other, and remember to blaze that trail. And Uncle Bill, get some sleep so you'll be fresh and ready for work tomorrow. We don't
Bye,
want you
Dana.
getting fired. Okay. Good night, everybody.